So we're going to go over simplifying rational expressions. So when you have a rational expression, just remember one thing to simplify it. If you can factor it out, you can divide it out. So I'm noting that because this does not exist. You cannot factor x out of both terms, which means you cannot divide it out. So this would be a no. All right, so looking at number one, notice you have 2x plus 8 all over 2. Look for something that you can factor out in order to divide out. If you look in the numerator, you have a GCF of 2. So if I factor 2 out of the numerator, meaning divide it out of each term, 2x divided by 2 would leave me with x, and then 8 divided by 2 would leave me with 4. And then I'm going to bring down the denominator over 2. So if I can factor it out, I can divide it out, leaving me with x plus 4. All right, so moving on. For number 2, I have x squared plus 2x plus 1 all over x plus 1. And I did put a video up on how to factor quadratic equations or quadratic functions. So just make sure you look through that. In this case, I'm looking for two numbers that multiply to be first times last. So two numbers that multiply to be 1 and add up to be the middle number, which is 2. And those two numbers would be 1 and 1. And over each one of these values, I will put 1x, always the first coefficient, and then x. And then each one of these fractions represents my parentheses. So the first fraction is x over 1, and that's a positive 1, so it'll say x plus 1. And then the second fraction also says x over 1, which is x plus 1. And I'm going to bring the denominator down. So again, if you can factor it out, you can divide it out, leaving me in number 2 with x plus 1. And for number 3, 2x squared plus 7x plus 5 over x squared plus 10x plus 9. So needless to say, you will be factoring quadratic functions, so please make sure you check that video if you have not gone over how to factor them. I'll go over a quick tutorial on this part, but it's more detailed in the other factoring videos. So again, you multiply first times last if I'm going to factor the numerator first. So first times last is 10. I need two numbers that multiply to be 10 and add up to be the middle number, which is b, or 7. So if I list all the numbers that multiply to be 10 first, the only two that would add up to be 7 would be 2 and 5. So again, over each one of these numbers, I'm going to put a and x over each one of them. So 2 and then x. Now, what happens in this problem that didn't happen in the last factoring problem is that you reduce if possible. So if I can reduce, by all means, in this case, I can divide each one by 2 in the first fraction, leaving me with x over 1. And in the second fraction, I have nothing, so I'm just going to bring it down. And again, the first fraction represents the first parentheses. So x over positive 1 is x plus 1. And then 2x over positive 5 is 2x plus 5. And from here, it's going to be all over whatever my denominator is when I factor it. So again, same steps, multiply first times last. So I'm going to take the sidebar up here. I need two numbers that multiply to be first times last, which is 9, and add up to be the middle number, which is b, or 10. So again, if you list all the numbers that multiply to be 9, the only two that would add up to be 10 are 1 and 9. And over each one of the numbers, you put a and x. So 1 and x. If it's 1, you don't really have to put the 1 there because when you have x by itself, there's always an imaginary 1 there. And there's no reducing, so each one of these fractions represents each one of the parentheses. So the first fraction is x over positive 1, which will say x plus 1. And the second one says x over positive 9, so that's going to be x plus 9. And again, the rule to simplifying rational expressions. If you can factor it out, you can divide it out, leaving me with 2x plus 5 all over x plus 9. That's it. Hope it helps, guys.